Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Higher Expertise. And today we have Roar, Javier, Israel, and Austin. How do you guys doing today?
Doing
Doing
great, doing
great.
All
great.
good, all good.
It's sunny outside, so feeling
It's
good.
sunny.
Friday.
We just ditched a major hurricane, and instead we got a whole lot of hot weather coming our way. And
Yes,
that's
sir.
speaking of that, this is exactly what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about Hurricane Laura, what's been going on with Hurricane Laura, and a little bit of COVID-19, and pretty much all things preparation. Prepare. How to prepare to how to anticipate events like this so you can minimize the damages as much as you can. We're going to be helping you out with that. Okay. So let's jump right into it real quick, guys. When it comes to businesses, what are the difference between when it comes to getting ready? What are the differences between, let's say, a hurricane or a tornado or in a pandemic? How what's different in impact? How do you get ready? How do you anticipate that?
Well, I mean, when you talk about tornadoes and hurricanes and things like that, there is a lot of like physical damage to properties and things like that. When you're talking about a pandemic, it's more like it's craziness, but it's not so much physical damage.
There,
It's more based on the personal, like your personal gets affected, you probably won't be on site like we're seeing right now, so you need to think more about this type of communication through Zoom or Teams, working remote, setting up your employees desk at home, like their workspace. And hurricanes, we need to think about the location, like the physical place,
mhm.
personal as well. I mean, you want them to be safe. You want to keep a good communication with them so they know what's happening, what's gonna happen, what they're supposed to do. You want to have a checklist, and you need to your assets. You also need
Yeah.
to know your the value of what you have in your
One of the
possession.
things that you mentioned, Javier, the main difference I think is going to be, with a pandemic, we're seeing the effects of that. But the hurricane, tornadoes, those are natural disasters. So you mentioned at the beginning of your conversation that physical property damages, right? So the main thing I think will be to look at any potential property damage that you could have that will impact things like your employees, your systems, and whatnot.
So
Yeah,
if
I
we're,
would.
if we're looking at, let's say, one is about protecting assets and the other one is about connectivity, being effective, about operations.
But I think both of them will have some of that, right? The main difference I think is going to be with the pandemic, you're still going to be required to get your employees to work remotely. Uh, on a hurricane, you're definitely going to be looking out for your employees to work remotely, but you're also got to worry about, is the building going to get damaged? I don't know that you have that concern when you were in a pandemic,
Right.
right?
You're not worried
Probably
about
not.
the building, but the extent to what needs to be taken care of, or the population that is affected is a lot larger.
Right.
Talking about a pandemic, whereas a natural disaster affects a lot of portion of land or people, but it's, I guess, um,
Right,
smaller.
right. And a pandemic is nationwide. I mean, this pandemic is globally, right?
Global.
Hurricane Lara affected, Texas, Louisiana. It may impact some of the East Coast as well, but it's not a global thing, right? It's a regional uh, impact.
Mm.
So the
But there,
pandemic is affecting almost everything, every single business,
Right.
and the
Yeah.
actions that need to be taken.
Go ahead, Austin. I think you've been trying to
Uh,
chime in.
no, it's all good. I just want to say that I think the big difference would be that, there's displacement for both. Like Israel mentioned, you have to work from home in both cases. But I would say that because of the nature of a natural disaster, those people affected would only work from home for a period of a few days until
Right.
the workspace was safe to return if the assets and the property wasn't damaged. Um, the vulnerability is a much shorter window during a natural disaster. Once it's over, you're really just cleaning up what has been destroyed. While in a pandemic, we've experienced that uh, maintaining social distancing and staying at home and, wearing masks, those are things that continue throughout a span of 6 months or however long it has been. And it
And it's going to
continues.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things, we are uh reminded on how to prepare for a natural disaster, tornado, a hurricane, a fire, flooding. We are reminded how to prepare for those constantly, right? Regularly. We see that all the time. In my uh, time living, we've never had any preparation discussion for a pandemic. So this is something that is unheard of. The pandemic is something that I've never experienced before, and not once did companies talk about in an IT perspective how to prepare for a for a pandemic. For natural
Yes.
disasters, you have that all the time. They put that into their DR strategy plans.
Yeah, I think if this happen more often, companies will start thinking a lot more about the speed of their employees at home, like the
Yeah,
internet speed of their employees at home, because it makes a difference when you don't have really good speed. These same meetings that we have in all of
even
that, it can be laggy. You won't
yeah,
heard, and you won't be able to
Well, take
listen
me as
to
an example.
others.
The first thing I had to do when I came home to work, it was just upgrade the internet speed. It was just one of those things that you would not think of. You wouldn't ask to an employee on an interview, "Hey, what's your internet?"
Yeah, exactly.
One of those things
Someone asked me
you
that.
have to ask now.
I I asked
You
I
kind
asked Laura. So
Yeah, I think we'll
no,
continue
you're
to
right.
see, increase in because of the pandemic, we'll continue to see increase in the use of technology in business, and not only that, but healthcare systems in the United States and globally will continue to expand because of this global, you know, pandemic. It affected so many healthcare systems that they were overwhelmed and needed assistance from the government. So I
Yeah,
think it'll be good for IT. It'll continue to grow in terms of healthcare.
even FEMA came out with a continuity resource
continuity
toolkit.
plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can take that as a guidance of how to react and how to recover from this kind of thing, and especially for COVID in this case, because of what we're going through. But this also changed, how businesses uh, behave in terms of the social distancing and the cleaning of the things. Like everything has to be wiped out. You cannot have X amount of people in a room at a certain
And
time. So
that's, that's exactly what that was going to be my next question, because I think that I don't want to be negative, but at the same time we got to be realistic. It sounds like um, it's it probably gonna the possibility of other hurricanes coming up every time more are there. So my question is, what kind of things what kind of things can businesses do to adapt to this new realities or this new forms? Like, for example, now everybody's working from home every time more, and it's going to be a new normal. How do businesses would adapt, can adapt to this?
yeah, I think there are a couple of things that we need to take into consideration. First, in preparation of either a pandemic or a hurricane or whatever it is, even a data breach, that's what it's made for. You need to back up your data, back up constantly, have it off-site, don't have it on site. If you can, set up cloud systems and have redundancy on your servers. So if anything happens to the main server, then the secondary server will get in place and
Kick in.
yeah. So you can do those things to keep your data safe, which is probably um, not the most important thing. You have your personal and stuff like that, but it's your data is very important for
Number
your
one should be
yeah.
your data.
So I mean, I would say create a checklist and build a checklist of tasks to perform throughout the entire duration of a hurricane or pandemic. Store the list on a cloud application for easy access, but also print it out and put it on your company walls and things like that, so your employees doesn't feel lost with all the confusion and the commotion going on when these things happen. Especially I would say tornadoes are more, you don't know, and it just happened and it goes through, and there was no preparation sometimes, because I've seen that happen. A hurricane, you hear about it with anticipation, and then you have more time to prepare for. But
and if you don't hear about it, I think you have to, depending on the business, but you have to keep an eye on what's going on in the tropics, and so that you can prepare in advance. But I was thinking, and I was wondering how. So I know we have a plan, or companies, it's advisable that they have a plan. But do they do drills? Do you think that's something important? I know.
Yeah, a lot of companies do drills. They do actual disaster recovery planning, and they go to a drill. They have a offsite facility that they send their employees to. They normally do that once a year if it's real disaster planning. For smaller companies, it's not such a big deal. But think about a company that has multi-offices and has a couple thousand employees. They have to plan on disaster recovery. And now you have a lot more cloud systems where the applications and the data is on the cloud. So it's easy for them to send people to another office and get them going right away. Before, they used to worry about the data center. If your data center was in Texas and Texas got hit with a tornado, then you have to send, people to, say, Arizona or to a different location so they can get up and running quickly. And they would have, a couple of days drill where they would actually bring up the data center at the other location to make sure that it was working. I think now, I think now with the cloud systems, it's easier for companies to do this, but nonetheless they still have to validate the checklist, validate the plans, validate the environments.
Yeah, I think a big picture idea is you want to think of backing up the data and the security risks that you want to avoid is like an insurance policy. And something that popped into my head was that show that was on a few years back called Doomsday Preppers. And these people filled their houses with food and guns or whatever,
water.
Water, basically to survive an apocalypse. And I don't want to call 2020 an apocalypse, but we have been going through some pretty catastrophic events in the past couple of months. So I think the biggest thing you can do is invest in your IT department, invest in insurance policies, because at the end of the day, I think IT is almost a insurance policy. The better resources you have access to, the more prepared you're going to be when disaster hits.
Thank you guys for being here. To everybody listening, follow us on social media on YouTube, LinkedIn, Vimeo, Twitter, Instagram. Go to our website, engage with us, ask us any questions if you have. And with that being said, we'll see you on the next show. Thank you guys. Take care.
See you, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.